Mr President, last night I was pleased to moderate an event held at Parliament House, hosted and organised by the Conservatives for Conservation on the Finkel Review focusing on renewables in the economy. It was in the Theaterette. Conservatives for Conservation is a not-for-profit organisation that promotes discussion and devises and showcases ideas surrounding one of the greatest and most important challenges faced globally today, that of the environment. I was very pleased to see the creation of C4C organisation in recent months, and I congratulate Conservatives for Conservation and its chair, Christina Photios, and Deputy Chair, Patrice Pendiolius, for their hard work in organising the successful event. I would like to acknowledge in attendance last night the Conservatives for Conservation ambassadors, Philip Ruddock, the former Federal Minister, and Robin Parker, a former Environment Minister and a member of this chamber. I would also like to... Order. Oh, sorry. Conservation has been historically a Conservative calling, Mr President. The conservation of our environment, the conservation of our natural resources, the conservation of water, conservation of the land and the soil, the animals and the flora, were the domain of the right of centre politicians and governments historically. The National Parks movement is in fact movements were in fact born of Conservative governments. The event last night was held in a Theaterette and had a fantastic panel representing a range of views regarding the future of Australia's energy policy. The panel included Martin Hablutzel, the head of strategy for Siemens, and which is one of the world's largest providers of energy and resource-efficient technologies; Tim Nilsson, the chief economist for AGL Energy; Amanda McKenzie, the CEO of the Climate Council, which is a well-known not-for-profit organisation in that space; and Simon Curry, the global head of energy at Norton Rose Fulbright. A very diverse panel that a really stimulating debate last night about the Finkel report was generated. I'd also like to acknowledge the audience of about 90 people which engaged in the Q&A, which I hosted with the panel, and greatly contributed to the quality of the discussion last night. The release of the Finkel Review in June of this year has prompted fierce debate regarding which direction Australia should go in terms of its energy policy for the future. In his open letter to the Prime Minister, the Premiers, Professor Alan Finkel asked the question, quote, "Imagine a world without electricity. Nearly 2 centuries of enterprise, health and entertainment would be wiped out overnight." Indeed, one of the key pillars of Australia's economic prosperity over the past century or so has been our access to abundant and cheap electricity. And this has largely been achieved on the back of cheap coal mined and supplied to government coal power generators in the past. However, Australia's electricity sector is in transition today, and it's at a critical turning point. There remains uncertainty around emissions reduction policies, which continues to drive up prices. But Finkel aims to remove this uncertainty with an orderly transition to improve reliability. The Finkel Review focuses on 4 key outcomes for the national electricity market: increased security, future reliability, rewarding consumers and lower emissions. The report also makes recommendations regarding a clean energy target, a notice of closures for generators, as well as register of expected generator closures to assist with long-term investor planning for our energy future. Stabilising energy supply and prices has become an urgent political imperative, attracting the attention of Prime Ministers, Premiers, Energy Ministers and, of course, oppositions across the nation. Although the federal government has committed to 49 of the 50 recommendations of the Finkel Review, it does remain divided on the CET, the clean emissions target. Whilst this CET has been described as a magic pudding, quote, or a tax on coal, quote, or, quote again, a green theology, what we need is, and that's by a certain Conservative, what we need is certainty around current and future emissions reduction policies. And today, despite much debate surrounding the need for a new coal-fired power plant to take pressure off electricity prices, the senior energy executives have signalled to the Prime Minister that, quote, they are not interested in prolonging the life of coal plants and are more interested in running businesses that were intent on reducing their climate risk. That's a quote from today's Guardian article. The New South Wales Government remains committed to a reliable and secure energy policy, with Minister Don Harwin stating it is time to, and I quote the Minister, end what can be referred to as a culture war and let economics and engineering guide the future of energy. We just want clean, reliable and affordable energy. Once again, I wish to congratulate the Conservatives for Conservation for hosting the event on the Finkel Review last night and thank the fantastic panellists for their participation.
Mr. President.